What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And for those that are new here, welcome to the channel. Um, Today we got something a little bit different. I might do this more in the future, not sure. But I put a poll out to see what people would like to see next. Whether it's a new game, revisit a game, or one that I had brewing for a little bit. Is like what my gaming setup is, what I use. Um, and I might do a part two for like all the accessories that I have. One of them being, and I haven't shared this, of course, because I haven't played any games that use it. But I do have a Fanatec setup off to the side here. Um, I enjoy that, so I might do a whole video on that, and actually like a gaming video using it. Do like sim racing, drifting. Let me know what you guys would like to see. But as far as my computer goes, um, this is one of the big things. Like, what are you running for your hardware and stuff. Now, I will say it is a pretty costly build. It's definitely not like top of the line. It's still, how would I put it? I guess there's like beginner level. What graphics card would that be? Like a 1080 Ti, something like that. Then you get up to like the 3060s, 4060s, and now they have like the 6080s. It's just that stuff is really expensive. This setup that I'm currently using now, and I do have the total. So I would like to think of my computer as kind of like a mid-range build. It's not the most powerful. It could definitely be more powerful, and that would be nice, but I don't need that. Um, and it's not like, you know, struggling to, play games. It does what I want it to do decently. So let's get into it. What I've all put into the PC, and, all the parts that I used. Yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so the motherboard I went with was an MPG series from MSI, the Z490 Gaming Plus. It doesn't have built-in Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, and so for that I just use an Ethernet cable. And then for the Bluetooth, you can buy a USB dongle. It's just a little like USB adapter that you plug in, kind of like what comes with like keyboards or mouses. And that just plugs in, and it's pretty much just plug and play for that. I didn't have to do anything, set it up, nothing. You just plug it in, and it works, which is awesome, and it works quite well. So with this, I went with an Intel CPU because at the time AMD was a little bit pricier than Intel, even for the same performance. So I just went with Intel because it was a little bit cheaper, same performance, same specs across the board. Didn't have to pay an arm and a leg for it. So I think everyone at that time was going with AMD. Not many people were going with Intel, and so AMD, supply demand. You raise the prices, demand will go down. But if people really want that, they will put extra money towards it. And then for the cooler, so it does come with, just a simple cheapy cooler that comes with it. But I wanted something that was going to be able to cool down this setup. So I went with the NZXT Kraken X63. So it's liquid cooled, and honestly, it shows. I mean, I can run games and it stays around. I mean, right now I'm not doing a whole lot. It's at 102 degrees Fahrenheit. It's kind of fluctuating a little bit. Liquid temperature is at 81 degrees Fahrenheit. But when I like start, playing games, it gets up to, I think, around like 120, and it'll hover around 120, 130. And it won't go much past that. So it's a good cooler. We'll go with that. And then I have the So the X63 and the X53, I think they're different models. They're the same thing, but one of them is going to be the 240 millimeter radiator. I have the 280 millimeter, and that comes with the 140 millimeter fans, which for some reason the LEDs just don't work on them. So they're supposed to be LED fans, but ever since I plugged them in, they've turned on once and then that was it. They like flashed on and then off right away. Kind of unfortunate because it would be nice to have, LEDs where they're supposed to be LEDs, but for the memory, I went with G.Skill Trident Z. It's DDR4. I have two 8 GB sticks for a total of 16 GB, and it does perfectly fine for like games and stuff. If you do a little bit more with like editing or video processing, you might want a little bit more, just because sometimes the computer can kind of hiccup if you don't have more memory. But yeah, definitely more RAM would be beneficial if you're doing, gaming and videoing. But if you're doing just gaming, I mean, the 16 GB work perfectly fine. For storage, though, so I started with a Western Digital Blue SN570. It was a 2 TB M.2 SSD, and that filled up pretty quick. So then I added on, about a year later, a 3.5 inch, still Western Digital, 4 TB hard drive. And that just connects, with the SATA ports, SATA cables, power it. Both of them run perfectly fine. I will say I have noticed it's not really noticeable, but if you have a game on the hard drive, it'll take a little bit longer to load up than if it were on an SSD. There's games that I've had on the SSD that I switched over to hard drive because I want more stuff. Games that I play more frequently on the SSD, just because of that factor that there's you get better loading times when it's hooked directly to the motherboard. It doesn't have to spin a disk up, read it, all that. But if you know that you're going to be doing a lot of like big games, big like storage games, going with a little bit more storage probably would be beneficial. For graphics, so I am currently running the MSI Ventus 3X RTX 3060. That was probably the cheapest 3060 card that I could have gotten at the time. Now, this was August of 2022. So just after, you know, the lockdown, I guess. After that, um, I mean, PCs were just getting ridiculously expensive. A simple graphics card. This was also the time when people were starting to buy graphics card for mining purposes. So you got people buying not only for mining purposes but also gaming purposes, because everyone wants a PC right now. When I got my PC, we're in lockdown. What else? Oh, hey, let me buy a computer and then I can do some gaming. And also the fact that the supply was kind of cut off for a while. You had all these things kind of cultivating into one huge factor, and yeah, so this graphics card I got for 425. It's not a bad price. I think the graphics card still goes for like $380 if I remember correctly. I paid 425 for it, so it hasn't gone down a whole lot in value, which is insane. So the case that I have, of course, trying to stick with NZXT. It's the NZXT H510 Flow. It is no longer available from NZXT. You could probably buy it off of like Marketplace. I don't know how much they would be asking for that case, but I like the case just because behind the rear panel, it's got plenty of ways to route your wires. You can keep it neat, keep the wires, hidden. It's not just a box, it's a box that has a panel behind it to do all your cable management, which was actually kind of nice because other cases, especially like pre-built ones, they have the either a piece of glass or just completely, just a complete piece of metal with like a design on it. And you like look behind that piece of metal or glass and there's just wires going everywhere. It's not cable managed at all. If they had this case, they can at least hide all the bad cable managing behind the motherboard. And of course, the power supply again, NZXT power supply. It's the NZXT-C 2019. So this one they still actually do have available, but on Amazon it was like $230 when I looked earlier, which is quite steep. Total cost for my computer when I got it was right around 1460, somewhere in there. 1440, $1,450, somewhere around there. So it was quite a pricey investment, but I'm happy with the product that I have. I looked the other day and the Amazon cart had said right around 1700. I think it was 1713. And I looked earlier today, and this is what I mean. You got to like if you are planning on building a PC, watch the prices because they will jump around quite a bit. But when I looked earlier today, those same parts that were in the cart, 2145. So I don't know what it was that jumped, but so I have a list of like equivalent cost but better performance PC build. So you're gonna go with the MSI Pro, and I'm gonna use the same like manufacturers for the other parts that I used, except for the power supply because NZXT on Amazon and everything you can buy off of Amazon as of right now. That could change, in a day, a week, month, a year, 2 years. I don't know, but as of today, everything on my list you can buy off of Amazon, and it's right around the same price as my PC. So you're gonna go with the MSI Pro Series B760p Wi-Fi. So you already have Wi-Fi and I believe Bluetooth built into the motherboard. And I paid 140 for my motherboard. That motherboard right now is also 140. Again, prices can change. For the CPU, you can buy an Intel i9 12900KF, and I have the specs there, 2.3 gigahertz with a 5.2 gigahertz boost for 265. For the i7 that I paid for, I paid 250 for that one. So $15 more for a better performance CPU. That's not too bad. Then for the cooler, so I had to go with a different cooler because the one for my computer was almost $300. I think it was like 280 something, and it's like that's ridiculous. So, I mean, this one doesn't look as good, but it's the same size. It'll do the same thing for the one in my computer does. It's still an NZXT Kraken. It's the 280 RGB. It doesn't look as clean and I don't know what the actual like pump looks like. I'll have to get pictures of that, put it in the video here. But I like the one that's in my PC a little bit better. It looks cleaner, even though the LEDs don't work on the fans. But the cooler goes for 190. I paid 170 for mine. And then for the memory, G.Skill Trident Z, and you can actually buy four 8 GB to make the 32 GB that I wanted to do. I think the cost for two of them by themselves is like $52 as of right now. So I paid 75 for two of them to get four of them for $80 today. I'd say that's probably worth it. Go for it if you want to save, a couple bucks. You're just doing simple gaming, maybe a little bit of like video editing, video recording. You could probably get away with just two. But if you're doing like heavy video recording, processing, I'd say go with the four. I mean, you're saving yourself maybe 20, $30. And then for storage, so this is another thing I had to change because the SN570 that I bought was like I think $230 when I looked earlier. So the SN580, I don't know what the difference is between the two. They're both M.2, both 2 TB of storage. I don't know if you are going to play more storage heavy games, I'd say go with more storage. You could possibly buy like a 4 TB. I think the Western Digital Black, or even like a Samsung one. Again, I just went with the brands that I had already put into my computer. So Western Digital, I mean, they're good. I like them. I haven't had any issues. Again, I've had the computer 3 years and haven't had any issues, even with the hard drive. So if you want to go with a hard drive, I don't know. If you are going to play more storage heavy games, I'd say go with more storage. You could possibly buy like a 4 TB. I think the Western Digital Black, or even like a Samsung one. Again, I just went with the brands that I had already put into my computer. If you want to go with a hard drive to save money, like what I did, I bought my hard drive from Walmart. I was like, oh, hey, I need more storage on my PC. That's only $60 for 4 TB. Yeah, we'll go with that. That was pretty much the process that I did. Me personally, I like the SSDs just because they're way faster. But if you are fine waiting a couple more seconds for a game to load, or it's a very light game that it's not very storage heavy, it loads quick anyway, no matter where you put it. Okay, so for the graphics card, this I also changed a little bit just because I want it to be better performance. So you can buy an MSI Ventus 2X RTX 4060 for $430. I think it's like $429.99, and I bought mine for right around $425. With the 4060, you get more clock speed, so it's a lot faster, and I'm guessing the graphics are better because of that, smoother. And then for the case, of course, you can't get the H510 Flow anymore. So one that looks very similar in its boxiness is the H7 Flow. I can't really see a whole lot like behind it. It looks like it could possibly be similar to the one that I have where the back panel comes off and there's a plate and you can do all your, cable managing on the back of that. NZXT is pretty friendly with like the cable managing stuff. So for I think all their cases, they probably have that feature. And then for the power supply, I had to switch it up from the NZXT one. This is the only one that I didn't follow the branding on. I mean, it's still a brand that I used in the PC build, But again, I have an NZXT power supply right now, and I mean this one it's pretty much the same. 850 watt. That should be enough to power. I mean, I did change around the um, I have an i9 on this list and also a 4060 graphics card. So it will consume a little bit more power than what my computer consumes. So I have plenty of power for my computer, but that's because I wasn't sure if like later on I would want to upgrade a graphics card that needed more power or a different CPU. So I left it open to options to change. But 850 watts for this build should be quite good. It's 80 plus gold, and that was the same price that I paid for my power supply. So, I mean, 115 for the same power supply essentially. That's not bad. But yeah, I'll add a total what it comes to, I guess, at the bottom there. I forgot what it came out to. I think it was right around like 1460, somewhere around there. So pretty much the same price that I put into mine. And if you want to use the same stuff that I used for my PC, I mean, you can probably keep the same graphics card. Um, and I forgot what an Intel i7 goes for right now. I think it's right around like 130. Oh, never mind. 184. So it's still cheaper than what I got mine for. I mean, I just put the i9 on there because that's what I if I were to buy another PC right now, that's probably what I would buy right there. That list. So yeah, I guess things that I would change with my PC right now, honestly not a whole lot. I spent good money on it in the beginning, bought good parts, and I'm happy with how it came out. I don't have issues with overheating, don't have issues with speed really. The only thing I have sometimes a problem with is like editing a video. Sometimes it'll take a minute for it to process what I've just done. Um, you know, but as far as like recording and gaming at the same time, I don't notice any issues with that. The recording comes out clean, but when editing, it can be a little bit hiccupy, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's my PC now. It'll probably be that for another 2, 3 years. Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't have to make any changes for quite a while, so I'm happy with that. I'm happy with how the PC came out. Happy that it works. Yeah, I mean, going into it, okay, so for people looking to build a PC, it's not super difficult. You just gotta watch, you know, you gotta do a lot of research. For me, I probably put together like 18 lists of what PC I was going to build before I pulled the trigger and was like, that's the PC I'm gonna build. You know, especially if you're tight on money or want to build something that's, budget friendly. I don't know if I would consider this like budget friendly, but depending on what your budget is, you can go into like PC part picker, pick out parts that you know you want, and then, you know, play around with the numbers after that. But don't expect to build a $900 rig that has a 4060 in it just because you want to kind of spread everything out nice and evenly. It's like if you have cold butter. It's hard to spread that across a piece of toast nice and evenly. kind of have to let it sit out for a while, get room temperature, and then you can spread it out nice and evenly. But if you have, you know, money put towards a graphics card but nothing else, your computer isn't going to run right because it's going to be there's going to be a bottleneck somewhere else down the line. That's just how it works. It's kind of like if you spread cold butter on toast. You get one bite that's got a ton of butter in it, and the other bites are just toast. But yeah, it's being smart with it, knowing what goes together nicely, and just pairing it all together to make a good machine. But yeah, at some point, I'll get into everything else that I have, including the racing rig I have. That'll be a fun one to do. Honestly, I haven't looked to see what Fanatec prices are. If they've come down, if they've gone up, what the price is for stuff. But yeah, if you guys want to see a video on that, let me know. But with that, I guess we'll end it here. Yeah. See you guys in the next one.